Hi, Dr. Tyson, Intro to Philosophy. Let's talk about personal identity today. So, the question might be, who are you? Who are you, right? But in a philosophical manner, we want really to ask, who am I? Who am I? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? Because who you are and who you become is 100% up to you. We have very little control over anything in this world, very little. We don't get to choose when we are born, and the time period you are born into makes a huge difference on the influences that will affect and inform your ideas about what it means to be a human being and the relationships that you have, the relationships you can have, the kind of education that you can have. So the time period, don't get to choose. Don't get to choose who your parents are, your neighborhood, your language. You don't choose your siblings or no siblings. We don't get to choose our own kind of personality or level of intelligence. But there are some things that we choose when we become aware that we can. So philosophy is about, in many ways, making the obvious obvious. So much of what I say today you will already know. And you'll say, I knew that. Oh yeah, I know that. And excellent. Now you can reflect on it directly and extensively, perhaps, if needed. So the idea of identity from a philosophical standpoint, let's contrast it again, okay? If, as a college professor, I want to know something about who you are academically, I can visit the registrar and get a record of your transcripts, your grades, your service, the level that you've accomplished already in college as well as in high school, where you went, where you're headed if you have declared a major, and that would hopefully all be true about you. But it surely isn't the totality of who you are. If I ask you about your work background or ask for documentation about your experience, your work experience, I can get that. I can look it over and find out some things that are very true and interesting about you, but that won't be the whole you. You can tell me if I ask you who your parents are, right? You can give me your name. That's usually the first way we go. So who are you? And you give a name, but you did not choose some people do, but probably you have not chosen your name. Somebody else gave you that name, maybe even before you were born, and very likely before you were an adult and had a personality, or you were really someone. Maybe you're named after someone in your family, and that's part of who you are, as well as your name, your identity. Police officer pulls you over. They'll ask for your driver's license, and they will see your address and your age and your height, and if you have any restrictions, right? I need lenses. And then they're going to go look you up and see if you have some wants or warrants, and that would all be true about you, hopefully. But it surely wouldn't be the whole you. And again, we're talking about things that you have not yet chosen. So what I've been talking about so far is who you are as a relational being. And certainly we all are. A huge part of what we are and who we are is the relationships that we have. The best relationships that we have help us to become our best selves. But we also are going to have relationships that are helping us to explore areas that we may not really want to develop, may not really be proud of talking about. But in philosophy, even though all of that is part of your experience, we want to know not whose son or daughter or sibling or employee or employer or student or teacher. We are not so interested in your relationships. We're interested in who you are when you are by yourself. What is the core of your being? What is the part of you that will not change? Even when the other parts are changing. So clearly, even though I am an identity, a unity, an identity, a whole, a thing, a person, I change dramatically the way I speak when I'm with my great nephews, when I'm with my nieces and nephews who are of an adult age, when I'm with my siblings, when I'm with people who are old, when I'm with student parents, when I'm with students, when I'm with my employer, my supervisor. But I still have to be me. I have to be somebody that I recognize as myself. I can wear different clothes, right? If I'm home alone or if I'm out at somebody's wedding or if I'm in a workplace. But I still am myself, hopefully. So if we don't really at some point ask that question about who am I, we might get just torn apart by the different roles that we play, by the different relationships that we have, and by the cubby holes that people might want to stick us into, the categories. So we're going to examine, who am I? Who am I? What do I care about? What are my deepest held values? Why do I hold those values? When do I change my values? I have to have some principles, some basic foundational ideas that I will never compromise. That's what gives me myself, and that's what gives me integrity. I know that it's very popular now to talk about integrity as who you are when nobody's watching, right? The idea is a little bit more complex. It is, who am I when nobody is watching and when other people are watching? My peers, my employer, my parents. Can I maintain my integrity in all of these different groups that might really want me to be something or someone that really I'm not? We all wish we were well liked. You've heard this a million times too. We all wish that we were liked by everyone, but you already know you cannot please everyone. So it really is important to be proud of yourself, to have self-respect. No matter how well we live in the world, how poorly or how well we live in the world, people will gossip about us. True or false, they will gossip behind our backs, just as the way of the world. There will be people, hopefully very few, who go out of their way to undermine our reputation, our success, take credit for the work that we do. There will always be that. Try to scapegoat us, blame us for things we would never do. And sometimes the solace that we get is, I know it's not true. I know it's not true. I know that is a lie. Somebody is lying about me. It may alter my reputation among people who don't know me. The people who do know me will not be bothered by the gossip. They'll be able to say immediately, that's not true. That's not true. No, that didn't happen. That never happened. Okay, so that's the beauty of good friends. But even if I'm doubted, right? When I'm doubted, I can't afford to doubt myself. Somebody lies about me, actually, that does not hurt who I am as a person, as a self. They, by lying about me, have made themselves into liars. That's part of their identity now. I refuse to lie because I don't want to be or become a liar. Okay, that's what I mean by integrity. I won't cross that line. I may well say, none of your business. I choose not to have that conversation with you. That won't work for me. right? We think we want to lie. First, we might say, we have cliches in our culture. Everybody lies. Well, guess what? You just called yourself a liar, and probably you didn't like it when I pointed it out. And it's not true it just is not true that everybody lies. People say that to assuage their own possible guilt, right? It's a rationalization. So not everybody lies. But that doesn't mean that people who tell the truth are silly. Again, if somebody asks me, how much money, right, do you have on you right now? I'm not willing to share that information. I have absolute right to walk away. I do not have to respond. I can say, I'm not going to respond to that question, if I don't want to be so rude to say Nunya. So, who am I? I know we keep circling around right to the back to the same question. I need to know who I am, and I need to share who I am when I can, to the extent that I am able. If you steal from me, if somebody steals from me, what can they take? They can take my stuff, and it's all replaceable, and it does not affect who I am, but they have affected themselves by making themselves into a thief. And that is something I will not do to myself. This kind of freedom, this really, really important kind of freedom of choice about who I am, cannot be taken from us. That's the real thing that nobody can take. But you could give it away. Don't do it. I would wish that you would not do it. I think that we have a call coming in, but no producer. We'll talk around the music, and that's fine. This is what it is to borrow a recording so I can share with you. I want to talk also about some of the most important, noteworthy, famous, infamous people in our culture, the kind of people that we look up to if we get the chance. Socrates, assassinated on grounds that just were false. Jesus, killed on trumped up charges. Martin Luther King, the list will go on. Gandhi, many, many people. So how does that happen? Sometimes we think those people were suicidal or they let it happen. But I want to challenge you to think about what Socrates actually says in his trial for his life. And it is this: you can kill me, but you cannot hurt me. You can kill me, but you can't hurt me. Because I am in charge of who I am. When I say me, that's me. I'm in charge of that. When you kill me unjustly, you make yourself into a murderer. You make yourself into a murderer, and that's bad. And I would never do anything bad to myself, to my knowledge, to myself. So to my knowledge means we need to find out what are the things that we do to ourselves. How do we make our own identity? We say the existential insight is I am who I make myself to be through my choices. What I pay attention to, what I question, what I understand, what I evidence, decide is true, decide and choose to act upon, and who and what I love, which is to say, how I live. I choose how I live. And of course, I live with other people. And part of how I live is to get along with the people I love, not to go out of my way to offend other people. Why would I do that? I live with them. But it is also not to succumb to peer pressure, cultural pressures, if that violates my values. And I'm going to leave it at that. And there's much more to talk about when we say identity. And it's fascinating. And we will get into some sort of tests, some standard tests, some repeated tests about who are we and what does it mean to be a self. And what about cloning? And what about maybe I'm a brain in a vat? And what, because, the Matrix. What about all of that? And that's a good place to end because philosophy is about asking the questions so that we ourselves can answer those questions for ourselves. Thanks.